There's a ton of job opportunities in the Cincinnati area. In fact, many of the people that I talk to who are making the decision to move to Cincinnati are doing so because of a job. Economically, the Cincinnati job market has been strong, and it's a great place to start a new career or build an existing career in several different fields. And if you combine a strong job market with a low cost of living like you get here in Cincinnati, it's really a win-win. I mean, good jobs and low cost of living. That sounds like a win-win, right? Win-win-win-win! I was actually pretty curious on this topic myself because making money and finding a job that makes you happy is such a big factor in the quality of life that you'll have. So I wanted to know for myself. So I dug into the data a little bit to find out which industries provide the most jobs in the Cincinnati area. These are the top 10 employers in Cincinnati. Let's get into it. What's going on? Is Victor Pham, realtor here in the Cincinnati metro area. I'm helping people all the time who are relocating to or around the Cincy area. So if you have any buying or selling needs in Cincy, feel free to hit me up, call me, text me, social media, whatever works, I got you. Be sure to stick around to the end of this video so that you don't miss any of these. So I'll refer to a website called statisticalatlas.com to get this list. All kinds of cool data about each state, and you can narrow it down to each city in America. It's pretty cool, check it out. But this is where that data is coming from in conjunction with some other websites. Here we go with number 10.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Number 10 is transportation. Now, rideshare has been a pretty big thing with the advent of Lyft and Uber. It's pretty accessible. You can get a ride pretty easily with the click of a button if you're anywhere within city limits. However, there are a ton of private transportation companies in Cincy who have been pretty innovative with the technology and have been able to hang in there with the rideshare giants. I mean, they're not going away without a fight. You got a lot of small taxi services and airport services. Cincy is a pretty high traffic area. It borders both the state of Kentucky as well as the state of Indiana. So a lot going on there, a lot of people visiting and needing to get to and from all kinds of places. And chauffeurs and private transportation services are still there. There's a lot of people who prefer a more private service as opposed to taking Ubers and Lyfts. The demand for bus drivers in Ohio recently is high due to the loss of many drivers from retirement and shifts in the economy over the last couple years. Also, the transport of medical patients and senior citizens is utilized a lot by healthcare facilities and senior homes. And just kind of a side note, the transport of not just people but also goods is big as well in the Cincinnati area. There's about 8 million people employed in the trucking industry in the U.S., and a good portion of those jobs are housed here in the Cincinnati area. This has always been a pretty big industrial area, so jobs related to logistics, warehousing, and getting those goods in and out of these facilities is a pretty big demand in Cincinnati as well as the surrounding areas. All right, number 9 is construction. This is a big industry in the Cincy area. As a matter of fact, I cannot recall a time in Cincinnati where there was not some sort of big construction project happening somewhere.
What's wrong with the street?
Some of these construction projects can last for years, sometimes even decades, it feels like. I can remember one stretch of I-75 they were working on for like 10 years. Like I went through like a half a generation of life before that road was completed. Pretty crazy if you think about it. A half a generation. I think that's 10 years. A generation's 20 years, right? Or is it 30? I don't know. It was a long time.
What's wrong with the street?
But a lot of jobs available in construction, and it does not look like that industry is going to slow down at all. Number 8, administrative work. So you can imagine running a business comes with a lot of back office stuff that is very time consuming. My wife runs a business from home, and I can tell you the amount of admin assistance she needs to keep the business running smoothly is pretty important. So you can imagine the amount of admin work that big companies like Procter & Gamble or Children's Hospital might have. You know, making sure things get filed and documented correctly, front desk work, back desk work, middle desk work. Jobs in human resources and public relations often have a lot of admin needs. And many of these jobs have been transitioning into virtual positions. That is a direction we're headed to as a society. It's a lot cheaper to employ someone from home and limit the amount of physical locations needed to staff people. So plenty of work in that field, both virtually and physically. And I'm assuming you probably gotta like pushing papers and doing some desk work, or at least kind of like it. Number 7 is insurance and finance. Now, everybody loves a good insurance agent, right? Insurance can cover many topics from life insurance to auto insurance or homeowners insurance. This is a business that you can surely thrive in. There are so many established companies within insurance and finance fields. You got Fidelity, which has a few locations in the area, US Bank, Citibank. It's a pretty big field for college graduates as well. A lot of entry-level positions at these banks and finance companies that offer the potential to grow into bigger leadership roles. Number 6 is professional services. Now, this can be anything from scientific services like lab testing to dentists, to doctors, or lawyers, or specialists in the medical field, or realtors like me. What? I'm a professional. But a professional service meaning anything that requires you to have a level of education beyond high school or any type of special license needed to practice in that field. There is an abundance of options there, especially if you're the kind of person who has plans on receiving higher education or some sort of degree or licensure. Number 5 is education. So in the greater Cincinnati area, which is Cincinnati, the areas outside of Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and Southeast Indiana, there are close to 100,000 people employed in the education field. The University of Cincinnati itself employs over 10,000 people. There's 64 public schools just in the Cincinnati public school system alone, and we're not talking about the suburbs. And there's plenty of other jobs in schools that aren't necessarily teaching jobs. There's a lot of pieces to a school staff that are needed to run a school effectively.
Janitor? Janitor?
Number 4 is food service and hospitality. Believe it or not, Cincinnati has a very robust restaurant scene. It wasn't always like this, but the restaurant scene has really flourished over the last decade. A lot of different cultural foods to choose from. A lot of these hotels, especially in the downtown area, have some conference rooms and ballrooms that get rented out to large groups, which requires a lot of service, especially if there's food involved. You know, because people love to be catered to and people love to eat. I know I like to eat. Like really, I really like to eat. Deep down in my heart, I'm a fat person. I just don't look like it. Number 3 is manufacturing. So manufacturing can cover so many areas from chemicals to personal goods to auto parts to food. Cincinnati and the tri-state area cover pretty much all of these areas. You got the Ford plant out in Sharonville, the Kroger factory over towards the west side. In Northern Kentucky, you got a ton of food plants like Kraft, Tyson, Kellogg. I probably worked a dozen factory jobs manufacturing various products in my life, and I probably hated every one of them. But the point is, it was a blessing because it was stable and consistent. I think every factory that I worked for in my life still exists to today and is thriving. A lot of those jobs were in Northern Kentucky. I feel like Northern Kentucky has a little bit more industrial space for that kind of stuff, so many Cincinnati residents commute from Cincy to Kentucky for work and vice versa. And you can get some really good benefits if you get in with the right company. Number 2 is retail. Over 120,000 people in the tri-state are employed in some sort of retail or sales position. Yes, physical stores are still here. I really don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. Amazon factories are booming. There's quite a few Amazon locations in the Cincy area. Even with the innovation of the self-checkout kiosks at the Walmarts and the Krogers. Kroger's is like our main grocery store up here. Personally, I'm more of an Amazon and Instacart kind of person. I really hate shopping. Between me and you, I'll do and say anything to avoid having to go to the store. Don't tell my wife I said that. I hope she doesn't watch this. And number 1 is healthcare. It is absolutely healthcare. Cincinnati has some of the best hospitals and medical research facilities in the country. I've bragged about this a lot in some other videos. People come from all over the world to visit Children's Hospital. We've got UC Medical, Christ, Shriners, Bethesda, St. Elizabeth, and so on. Over 160,000 people employed in the medical field in the tri-state area. I know nursing jobs are in a huge demand as well. Some of the medical facilities are deploying nurses to take care of people at home. So many different areas in healthcare you can get into, especially if you have a little bit of higher education or are willing to get it. Hopefully that gives you some insight if you are looking into a job or a career opportunity in the Cincinnati or surrounding areas. If you're thinking about moving here or buying or selling a house in the Cincinnati area, feel free to hit me up. I am licensed in Ohio, so I can help you in the Cincinnati area or anywhere in Ohio. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. And remember, when it comes to houses in Cincinnati, you can always call Vic. The demand for bus drivers in Ohio recently is high with a lot of losses due. The demand for bus drivers in Ohio recently is high with a. The demand for drivers in Ohio is. The demand for bus drivers in Ohio is high recently with the loss. The demand for. I quit. I'm going to bed.